Greetings from iHR Consulting. Today we are going to talk about HR's role during a crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, with what's happening in Malaysia and also our neighboring country Thailand, we realize that there is a lot of HR implication in this natural disaster. We got floods happening in Perlis, Kedah, even the East Coast. Okay, all these are crises which HR plays a key role. And the most important role HR plays during a crisis is to focus on employee protection and business sustainability. You see, ladies and gentlemen, during a crisis, for example, a flood, an earthquake or a tsunami, the most impacted factor or the most important factor that we need to consider is the people. What is the impact on the people? When we say people, it's your employees, the employees' families, and the community as a whole. We need to consider the implications on this group. What does HR do during a crisis? Have you ever asked us the question, are we ready to handle any crisis? Do we have policies and procedures in place that guides our employees what to do and how are we going to act during a crisis? We need to ask ourselves that questions. Okay? Because in most organizations that we have worked and consulted, we have realized their crisis management or risk management policy and processes that they have focus more on the system, the processes, and and the most important thing, there's a strong tendency where the people become the last thing on their agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, it should be the other way around. It's the people or your employees that should come on top or the first priority. Everything else is second. Meaning to say, all your policies, processes must be focused on only one thing, that is your employees. Okay? Now, what happens during a crisis? What are the things that an employee really impacts an employee? People are, people are impacted psychologically, physically, okay, where we talk about loss of life, injuries, family members, loss of family members, loved ones. So this has a psychological impact on people. Okay, losing a house that you actually bought and is completely damaged. Okay, now for example, if your office is in Kuala Lumpur and your company is in Kuala Lumpur, but you have employees who've got families who live in the East Coast or the northern states of Kedah and Perlis, how is it going to impact them? Okay, what sort of policy do you have in place to manage this? How are you going to help your employees? Is there a disaster leave policy? Okay, is there a employee assistance and relief policy? What are you going to do? Okay, so these are things as human resource managers we need to think about, because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, after a crisis, okay, we need to focus on business sustainability. That is HR's key role as the gatekeeper of the company. We need to focus on business sustainability. And how can we have business sustainability? Ladies and gentlemen, it is through motivated employees. Employees, yes, they have a low morale when they come back from a crisis, but we need to have in place, how can we turn this situation around? Okay, to motivate back the employee. Understand this, ladies and gentlemen, that for your company to turn around, you can reinvest in the building, you can reinvest in new equipments, but ladies and gentlemen, how are you going to reinvest in people? People who are motivated. So it is very important that we focus on the people. Okay, what are the things we can do? We should have a policy in place for emergency guidance, meaning to say, what are the first things we need to do? Okay, clear information. Employees need clear information. They need leadership. They need reassurance. Okay, we also need to have a policy or a process in place, like we manage grievances. We need to have that in place to manage the employee who's going through a psychological effect, i.e., as I said earlier, could be a loss of a family member, could be physically hurt, loss of property. So people need to come out from that. So there needs to be a process and a policy that takes care of this. There needs to be a team of people, or the leadership, the leaders or the department heads need to be trained how to counsel employees through this really traumatic period. So that's one thing we can do. Next, we need to look at the advanced preparation. You may not have policies now, but are you going to wait until something happens to create a policy or a process or an intervention plan? I think we should have it ready now. We should have it in place. Clearly written policies that says what to do during a crisis, who do we communicate with, especially if you've got employees traveling abroad. Someone is in Bangkok now, stuck in the flood. What can we do? How are we going to communicate to his family members to say he's safe? Who is he going to communicate? How are we going to reach him? What kind of assistance can we give him? So all these kind of things we need to consider, and we need to have a policy and process in place to manage this. So ladies and gentlemen, let me leave you with this question. How prepared are you and your organization to manage a crisis? Meaning, how well prepared are you to take care of your people, your most valuable asset, in bringing back your business, to build back your business. This is your most crucial time to make sure that you do have policies, processes, or practices in place to manage crisis. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.